Hello everybody, JGC Anime here. Today, we are going to be reviewing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 1. The reason I'm only reviewing this part is for several reasons. 1, I want to make this into a multiple part series because everyone loves JoJo at this point, so I want to share my opinions on JoJo. 2, this is literally the only part of JoJo I've seen as of recording this, although I have been watching it with my friend, and I do agree that I've been enjoying the second half a lot. So I'll talk about that in its own video. And 3, I just want to review JoJo. I want to give my opinions on it, my own 2 cents. So yeah, let's just hop right into this. So, a basic story summary of JoJo Part 1. After a homeless man, kind of homeless, he was kind of a rundown type person, found a rich person's cart that had crashed. The rich person had assumed that he had saved his life, and thus offered his son, Dio, who he had the chance to come live at the mansion after his father's death, where the characters Dio and the main character, Jonathan, meet. And a lot of things ensue, leading towards a bitter rivalry between the two from a lot of crazy stuff that I don't know if it's safe to share on YouTube or not. I guess I could go over in the spoiler section and see how it works. But yeah, I can try to talk about that if I remember it. But yeah. Basically, this whole rivalry kicks in and mysterious things start to happen before leading towards a big epic battle between vampires and people with some power called Harmon. But yeah, again, we can talk about a lot of that in the spoiler section. So, some stuff I liked and disliked. I liked a lot of stuff in this, but also disliked a lot too. I definitely found this to be a slightly underwhelming season in a lot of ways. For one, it still is going to take me a bit of time for me to fully adjust to the buff macho men that the characters are designed to be. Just the designs throw me off a bit, but I'm sure I could get used to them eventually if I try, because I have done that before with many other shows. So it just will take me a bit to adjust still, because I'm not used to it. And it's definitely probably one of the more gory shows I've seen, which I do like that part. I know it's not as like hardcore gore as stuff like Tokyo Ghoul or a lot of those R-rated things, like that one meme where the girl literally blows the brain off a guy, which I'm not going to show on screen because I want this to stay slightly YouTube friendly. But in my terms of gore, because I'm not that too familiar with hardcore gore, that was the stuff in JoJo was still kind of gory for me, with how there were things that I can describe in the spoiler section about why they were slightly gory. But yeah, I liked a lot of those aspects. I thought the story was decent, but I wasn't able to fully follow along for a bit. And I definitely struggled to get into it fully because I'm not a big vampire person. And vampires are a major player in this show, at least from this part. It looks like things are going to get crazier because I've seen pictures of future parts, but I don't know how that will turn out. I'll find out when I get to those points. But yeah. So, I liked a lot of stuff, but I also didn't really like the art style too much. It's gonna take some time still to adjust. I thought the story was decent, but as someone, because both me and my friend are both dub watchers, we have been watching the dub of JoJo. I do plan to rewatch it subbed as well to give a full-fledged opinion of which one might sound better. So I eventually plan to go and watch the sub version, because I do want to see how that sounds. But I thought the dub voices did a pretty good job with conveying the story. My only problem was the accents. I get it. They were from, I think it was Britain or the UK, where everyone talks like this. And I get that, but for some reason, those voices, I can only hear them for so long. Like, I've watched plenty of YouTubers in my time as well, like Tommy Innit, Philza, Wilbur Soot, and all those guys. They're hard to sit through for too long because I can't take their accents. I find accents are decent for a little while, but after a certain amount of time, if they're not someone you're familiar with, like I know a few people with accents, and because I've talked to them for so long, I've gotten used to those accents. But upon watching someone on the internet, or just hearing someone in general with that accent for way too long, it's hard for me to focus if I'm not specifically talking to a specific person. So hearing those kinds of talking like this and trying to keep up with their own accents type voices are very hard for me to follow, and I definitely didn't like them after a while. They were fine at first, but it's just weird hearing those types of accents on characters in anime. I'm so used to hearing either a North American accent or just Japanese in general, that trying to hear UK accent is definitely hard on me, I'm not used to it. But yeah, Not really much else I could say in the likes and dislikes. And spoiler-free thoughts, I didn't hate it. I thought there were a lot of good moments in this, and I definitely was surprised by how some of the story threads were actually really interesting, such as the fact that there was something that could turn people into vampires, which that's a major player in this season, which that's all I can really spoil for that. But it definitely surprised me, and I definitely thought it was a wormhole, because even though I'm not really into vampires, I do like the idea of what they introduced in this season, and it was definitely bizarre, but not too bizarre. I'm sure it's going to get much more bizarre in later seasons, because that's what my friend said. So yeah, that's all I can really say. So let's get into the spoiler section. Here's a timestamp to when the spoiler section will end. If you have seen JoJo Part 1, I recommend sticking around to hear what I have to say. And if you haven't, if you are curious about what has happened in the story, you can stick around. But if you don't want to hear that, you can skip ahead. But I do appreciate anyone who sticks around, because I like seeing comments about what people think about my thoughts. So yeah, let's just hop right into this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so some things I definitely enjoyed about the season was the slight bit of gore. Like, there's this whole scene in the finale of Part 1, not the big finale, but before the finale, where JoJo is fighting Dio, and during that scene, Dio grabs onto his neck and grabs onto one of the cords in his neck, and he knows that if he crushes it, JoJo will be dead in an instant, which the fact that he was just playing around with it was disturbing, because it just is so creepy. And there's also another part in it where a guy turns around, and just as he turns around, because Dio used a special mask that could turn people into vampires, he put it on his own face, turned himself into a vampire, and after a police officer turned around, he literally chucked the guy's whole top of his face off. And it was so weird and not too hardcore gory. Again, I have seen a few pictures and also some clips from Tokyo Ghoul. I actually watched like the first 4 episodes, but never got back to it, where I really thought there was a lot of moments I was quite surprised by, because I did not expect it to have some gore. And definitely out of the entire season, the most messed up part of it was definitely the beginning bit when Dio and Jonathan first meet with one another. Because literally, all because Jonathan or JoJo is just getting ahead of him in so many ways and even managed to beat him up, Dio did the most evil thing possible and frickin' put the guy's dog in a burner. That is so messed up. That is seriously messed up. Dio does a lot of messed up things in this part, and I could definitely say that even though he and Jonathan had reached their conclusion in this part, I know probably they're gonna find some way to bring at least Dio back, because either that or I know my friend said that the later parts might be in an alternate universe, or maybe they're still in the same universe. I don't know. I know Dio will eventually find his way back, because I've seen pictures about him and a character named Jotaro, which I think that's the next part after part 2, which I'm currently on. And I definitely find that I find Jonathan as a character to be way too, like, justifiable, I guess. He's way too much into the justice. He reminds me too much of Superman. That's probably why I've been getting into the second part's main character, I think it was Joseph Joestar, a lot more, because he has more of a carefree personality, where he, even though he's nice, he also has a more chilled, laid-back attitude, as well as the fact that in the dub, he's voiced by the same voice actor as Bond from Seven Deadly Sins, who's my favorite character. And I just find his whole attitude to be a lot more entertaining than Jonathan, who just has this justice type character. He's not really someone I could get too invested in, because all he's like is, Dio, you're evil! I must defeat you! Dio! What will you do, Dio? I definitely have to say, out of the entire part 1, my favorite part was Dio. I found Dio to be a very entertaining villain, and he's just so interesting, and I liked Dio a lot. I'm looking forward to when he does make a reappearance. Overall, I definitely find the whole part itself to be a mixed bag. I liked a lot of it, but I also disliked a lot of it, and that's why when we reached the conclusion, I ended it with a simple meh. It was fine. it didn't really stand out as much as I was hoping it would, and I'm glad at least I gave part 2 a try, because so far, 2 episodes in, I've had an amazing time, and I am looking forward to where the rest of the story goes. So, we're at the conclusion now. My final thoughts? I liked it somewhat. I definitely haven't found as much interest in it as I have with the second part that I've just started. I've liked the second part a lot more, but this first part was very mediocre. Like, it definitely didn't feel like it was being as hyped up. Like, with JoJo, how hyped up it is, I didn't love this season that much. I'm calling it a season because parts are parts and seasons are seasons, where I thought it was fine, but I didn't really love it. I thought it was just a decent storyline with a decent amount of characters that I thought were all decent. And that's why I just have to rate part 1 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures a 6 out of 10. It was fine, but so far it did not have me impressed. I thought that it had too weird of a story, and just when I thought the whole story had finished, they suddenly tossed in another thing like the very end, and I just thought overall it's a fine season. I think it did fine. It didn't stick out to me, and I definitely hope that from what I've seen of season 2 so far, or part 2, I've had a much better time with it, and I hope it stays that way because I really want to like JoJo. I hear a lot of love for it, and I want to feel that same love. And not because my real name is Josiah, which is a Joe, I guess you could say, where I find it weird that it's someone like me who literally has a Joe in their name has yet to fully understand the greatness of JoJo, but I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen in the future, and I will give my final thoughts when I see those parts. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I upload anime reviews every week, and I do hope to release reviews for future JoJo parts once I finish each one. So yeah, that's all I really have to say, so without further ado, I wish you all a happy day, if that's the right word. And yeah, let's just say it was me, Dio, all along. No, hang on, I got this. It was me, Dio, reviewing my own review, and that sucks. Wow, this is bad. Anyway, yeah, thank you all for watching, and I shall see you all around. Peace.